Hey guys, what's up? I hope that you are all doing well. I want to talk about love and relationships in this video because I know that probably a bunch of you who are watching this video right now are probably like in the newer generation of people. You're probably like in your 20s, 30s, maybe. And there's probably a lot that you don't actually know about love and relationships just because you haven't experienced them, or maybe you have experienced a lot of them, but they've been crappy and really sucky for you because you haven't had the information that you needed to really be in a thriving relationship with someone. And so I'm going to share with you guys in this video basically like the big things that you need to know about like finding the one and things like that. So let's get right into it. And if you guys see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at my notes because I have a lot of them. So first things first, if you do not have a very solid foundation of trust, vulnerability, honesty, and safety with another person, it's never going to work. And I truly mean that. And I know that, some of you listening to this are probably like, "Oh, I know that. Like all your relationships should have that." And yes, they should. But what's different is your ability to be able to apply those things, right? Like, what kind of partners do you notice that you attract into your life? And you guys are going to notice as I go through as well. These are all good things for you to like write down and journal and just reflect on, because that's going to help you with your learning throughout this process. Because if you don't know exactly what it is that you want, if you are not aware of the kinds of people that you usually attract into your life, um, it's going to be very difficult for you moving forward, finding people who you want to attract in, people who are going to resonate more with you, or be like a good, healthy, energetic match for you, right? Because you can be a negative energy match for someone else. And what I mean by that is, if you recognize that you have a long-standing history of attracting emotionally unavailable people and partners into your life, you're going to notice that you're also going to keep doing that with your relationship. So the way that you can work through that is, one, recognize that pattern if there is a pattern there that exists, and two, get really clear on you yourself being a very emotionally available person. And so, what does that mean, right? Now, I know some of us who are fixers, right? We're people pleasers. We are people who feel emotions on a really deep level. And because of that, we may be thinking to ourselves, like, okay, that means we are emotionally available. But that doesn't have to be true. Being emotionally available goes beyond just your ability to like feel through emotions and hold emotions for other people. So let's look at that. So your job in a relationship is not to fix another person. It's not to change that person. It is not to hold their emotions. Now you can hold space for somebody, but there's a difference between that and taking on their emotions, holding the weight of whatever it is that they're going through. That is not your responsibility. That is the responsibility of the person that you're in a relationship with. The only person whose emotions that you are responsible for are your own. And so, when you are this kind of like fixer upper type of person for other people because you love helping people, you might think that that's a good thing. You might think that that's healthy, and I'm telling you that it is not. And it takes away so much energy that you need to be able to give back to yourself. And if you can't give that energy back to yourself, you can't give that to anyone else. And also, you do them a huge disservice when you don't allow them to carry and work through whatever it is that they're going through on their journey. You take away their own power by holding everything that they have to go through. That's not your responsibility. And so, if you recognize that that is what you've been doing for people, whether these are romantic relationships, friendships, whatever it is, that's something for you to work on and change. Um, if you're resonating with this stuff, you're more than likely someone who tends to be like really codependent in relationships. And so I'm going to tell you right now, like it is possible to change that. There have been people who have. It's going to take a lot of work, but it's possible for you to change that within yourself. And so what you also need to look at is look at some of your early experiences, right? Or maybe not even early childhood experiences, because it doesn't have to be that, but kind of do a little bit of like a little life review. Look at certain experiences in your life that you feel like have been pivotal moments for you, and sometimes that ends up being things that were pivotal in a negative light, because those are the things that stick with us, right? So there's two different kinds of trauma. There's big T trauma and little T trauma. And so, we think of like big trauma as like, I don't know, like sexual assault or like some form of abuse or something like that. That would be like in the category of big T trauma. But little T trauma, those are those kinds of experiences that really stick with you, that have really harmed you in some way, that have really um severely impacted your feelings of like self-worth, feeling like you're good enough, feeling like you can't be accepted in the world, like people are not trustworthy in the world, those kinds of things. And that is what you really need to look at and unpack, because the more that you are aware of those things, the less control that they have over you and the kinds of relationships that you welcome into your life, the kinds of people that you attract into your life, what you accept or don't accept from other people. And it matters to bring that to your conscious mind, because whatever is in your subconscious is what is going to really be ruling your world. That is what is going to be guiding all of the behaviors that you have. So the more that you can, you know, uh, become more aware of this kind of information and be able to work on it, the more that things are going to be easier for you and healthier for you in your life. Like I really, uh, and I mean this from like the bottom of my heart, it is going to be extremely challenging, very hurtful, stressful, frustrating, and all the negative things when you're not aware of this, when you are not open to being aware of these kinds of things. And what I also want you to understand as well is that the person who is like, I guess, whatever you want to call as the one, right? Like we all have these different ways of thinking about these things. The one to me is the person that you can have a really strong, healthy relationship with, the person that you can grow with, the person that you can share your life with and your dreams, and you don't have to sacrifice who you are. You don't have to sacrifice um, all these deep things that your soul wants. That's how I see the one. And in the past, I've seen, like the one as being the same thing as like, like a soulmate or like a twin flame or something like that. And just from having to go through my own journey and working through these things, like I recognize that I don't see them as all as one thing. I think there's different kinds of like soul connections that we can have with people, but I want you to know that you need to stop like spending so much time focusing on like what kind of connection that you have with other people in your life. And I mean by labeling them, like being like, this person is a twin flame, or this person is like a karmic or whatever. Like, you don't have to know all of that information, but what you do need to do is be in the present moment. Look at the kind of relationship and dynamic that you have with that person, because the more that you can understand what kind of dynamic that you have, you're positioning yourself to better understand like exactly what is going on, and that's how you can work through things and change them in the dynamic if you need to. But please be aware of the fact that the one doesn't have to be your twin flame. The one doesn't have to be like a specific person that you've identified as being your soulmate, because we all have these different kind of connections in our lives, and the whole purpose of relationships are to be there to help us grow. And so you're going to find that there are going to be people in your life who maybe you really have been a energetic match with. Maybe you've learned a lot from them, you've grown a lot from being in that relationship, or maybe through that breakup or whatever is going on. But that doesn't have to mean that that person is like the one, or like your forever person, or the person that you build the rest of your life with. And sometimes it's not going to be. Like, how many times have you guys already experienced this in a way? Like, you've had relationships and like you thought that that person was your soulmate, and then you were like, no, like, what was I thinking to myself? Why did I accept these things? Why did I let all this stuff go that didn't need to be let go? Why did I try to change who I am? And if you need to change who you are as a person to keep somebody, there's something wrong there. Like, you should be able to fully be who you are as a person. Now, that's different than, you being on this journey of self-discovery and growth. Like, that is so amazing. And you should be able to do that. And you should be doing those things. But that's different than what I'm talking about, which is, you need to fundamentally change your morals, your values, the things that you keep closest to your heart just to stay with somebody. That is not that's not healthy. And it's okay if you've been there, and it's okay if you're there again right now. And so I encourage you to sit, to use your intuition, to reflect on the situation, to question things. Look into that. Why is it that you feel like you need to change yourself in order to be with someone else? Why do you feel like you need to even be accepted by every person in your life, or by this specific person? Is it because your feelings that you have for them, or is it because you're still like replaying some sort of initial trauma that you had in your life, like some type of previous trauma? Because that stuff can get really confusing. Like, I'm telling you, this can be real deceiving. And it's so easy to look at something and think to yourself, like, oh my gosh, this must be like a twin, or like some deep soul connection, or something like that. And maybe it is. I don't know. I can't speak for every person and every journey that they have. But I can say that sometimes we end up in dynamics where we're replaying trauma that happened to us in our previous lives, and we don't realize that we're replaying the trauma because it looks a little bit different than what it was before. But the deeper level things that we're still being challenged to work on, that we're still keeping ourselves stuck in, are the same. They are the same. So please look at that. I want you to take some time to work through those kinds of things, because like, this can get really, really confusing, right? Like, you might think because you've been able to grow in a dynamic that has to mean that that is your person. And that's not true. That's absolutely not true. You can learn really deep level things, like really hard lessons from someone, and it doesn't have to be like your person. Also, sometimes we fool ourselves. We think that we really like love someone, or like we have these deep feelings for them. But really what's going on is you might not even have feelings for someone. And I've seen this happen, and I've experienced this. You might trick yourself into thinking that you have feelings for somebody. But what's going on is that you have these deep emotions that are being triggered because you're in a dynamic with someone that is like helping you like relive out like some early or just pivotal type of trauma that you've experienced in your life. And so if you are not aware of what healthy dynamics look like, please look into that. And there's so much information on it. And I've experienced this, right? Like, I've learned about healthy relationships, and I love learning about those things. And so I had so much information on it, or I thought at the time that I had so much information, that I thought that like I had a very clear idea of what friendships look like versus like romantic connections versus like spiritual connections. And there's so much to learn on those things. And looking back, like I realized I had such a small, very limited concept of all those things. And even now, like I'm still getting more clear on like, what do these things actually mean? Like how to create healthy dynamics and be in safe relationships with other people. And just because of things that I've experienced in my own life, I feel like that's kind of might just always be like a lifelong journey kind of thing for me. And I'm okay with that because I recognize that every relationship that I have in my life has some sort of learning in it. But please be aware that just because you've learned something with someone or you've learned a shit ton of things with someone doesn't mean that you have to stay with them. Doesn't mean that you have to keep them in your life. Like you are allowed to be in free choice, and you should be in free choice because that is the whole point of being here. And that is one thing that I definitely have not fully understood in my relationships with other people. Like, you don't have to be a people pleaser. It's okay to tell people no. And guess what? If you have a really deep foundational trust with someone and safety with them, you're going to know that it's okay to say no to them. It doesn't have to like make or break your entire like friendship or relationship or whatever it is that you have going on. You have that right to tell people that, and you should have freedom. Like I understand in my own life, I will not have relationships with anyone where I feel like I can't freely like be myself or go for the things that I want to go for. Like that is a non-negotiable for me, and it should be in all relationships. Like what is a relationship where you are not able to like show up as you are, and in order for that thing to work you need to be a significantly different person. You need to go against your your deeper level things that are so essential to who you are, and who you are is a gift in this world. Now you can always grow and change and mature, and we're going to do that no matter what, especially if you care about, you know, self discovery and personal development. But holy shit, like that is so different than just, you know, feeling like you need to be a significantly different person in order for the dynamic to work. And I recognize that, like, if that is something that I need to do, like I don't need to be in that dynamic, and it's okay for me to let that go. And so no matter where you are and what you're going through, one skill that I recommend that you learn to develop is being able to let things go. And by that, I'm not talking about letting like non-negotiables and like important shit go in a relationship. I'm talking about, because you know what, that actually is a lot more harmful whenever you're trying to like keep the peace. Honestly, that's something to look into, because that might actually be a way that you're replaying some of your trauma, right? Like if you feel like you can't speak up, you can't use your voice, you can't be honest about your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, there's probably something still within you where you feel like it's not okay to be you. You feel like it's not okay to talk about your feelings and share your thoughts. That might be a place where you recognize that there's some type of trauma or really negative experience that you haven't really worked through yet and you haven't fully healed from. And it's okay. It's okay if you haven't healed from these things yet. You still can. So just be aware of those things and understand that not every single not every single relationship in your life has to be like being your life forever. And so the skill to learn is to understand how to let go of people, like understanding how to like let people go, understanding how to just accept the fact that you have the choice. And I didn't know this before. Like, you have the choice of whether or not to allow someone to be in your life. Like, you have that choice and you have that right. And it's okay to just let go of feeling like you need to keep people in your life. Like, if they want to leave, it's okay to let them go. Like, let them go. And when you're in these dynamics, if you need to change who you are, or they even have to change who they are in order for you to fully like love, accept, and respect them, like maybe it's just not working. Like, maybe y'all shouldn't be together. You know what I mean? And that's okay. Never be afraid of starting things over. Never be afraid of having to work through things and just restart dynamics that you need to with new people. And with that being said, I mean, I've seen relationships where you can kind of like transform things, but please be aware that you cannot do that in every single dynamic. And it's okay. It doesn't mean it's a failed relationship or a dynamic, or that there's something wrong with you. Like, people should be allowed to be themselves, and if you do not accept that, you should be allowed to walk away. And the same should happen vice versa, right? Like, somebody should be allowed to like walk away from you. Why is it that you feel like that person can't make their own decisions? They can't make their own choices. That goes back to what I was talking about earlier in this episode about you can't hold the weight of a whole nother person. Like, you need to be able to hold yourself and support someone. Supporting someone is not living their life for them. It is not telling that person like what they need to do or like not need to do, or like fixing all of their problems. Like, that is not what you need to do. And please understand that there are so many people in this world. There are going to be people who you're going to be a good energetic match for. And maybe that's something I need to talk about now too, because I realize I've mentioned that a few times now and I haven't really gone deeply into it. And it's that, sometimes you can be a really um, good spiritual match for someone, in the sense that you have the same kind of like energetic frequency, but y'all are just like not y'all are not right for each other. Because guess what? You can be the kind of person who is a people pleaser, who is a perfectionist, who allows so much BS from people. And guess what? When you are so deep in that energy, you have all these unhealed wounds. You are going to be an energetic frequency and match for somebody who's going to, possibly disrespect you. You're going to be a match for somebody who takes advantage of those things. And maybe when they're taking advantage of it, they're not even consciously aware of it, because that happens too, right? That person is also going to be playing out the wounds that they have not healed. They're also going to be replaying their trauma. That's the thing about it. It doesn't always have to be on your end. The other person can be doing that too and not recognize that they're doing it. And so now you guys are this energetic match, and you are just wildly unhappy together. You are trying to like make something work that is not meant to work, and it's not for you. And so I know that I've been sharing a lot of information, and so I want to take the chance to remind you again: write these things down, journal on them, reflect on these things. Please know that it is okay to question things in your life. It doesn't mean that you're like doing something wrong. It's good to ask questions. It's good to be curious with yourself. It's good to question, why do you feel so deeply for this person? It's good to question those things. It doesn't have to be bad. And, if some of you are used to growing up in maybe religious households, or like religious schooling or something like that, there may be some ideals that you hold really closely to you that maybe are not serving you. And I'm not saying that to say like religion or anything's bad. That's not what I'm saying at all. You guys know, like, I'm deeply spiritual. I'm all about God and unconditional love and all these amazing things. But what I'm specifically talking about is, sometimes when you grow up in these kind of religious backgrounds, it might have been encouraged in some way that it's wrong to question things. Like, I know that's something that I had a lot in Catholicism growing up. Like, it seemed like it was a bad thing to question if God is real. Like, I always felt like, oh my God, like I'm this huge sinner. Like, I'm doing something wrong. If I question some things, like, it has to mean I'm doing something wrong. And that is so deeply hurtful to me because I'm naturally a curious person. I'm naturally someone that asks a lot of questions because I love learning about things and about myself. So please know that it's okay. It's okay to question things. And, something else to look at is, are you in dynamics where it's okay for you to question things? Or are you in dynamics where if you question something, it automatically, like, is this big problem? Like, is it always causing a fight? Is it something that is always a problem? Are you allowed to do that in your relationship, right? Because you might think that you're in a healthy relationship, but like maybe you can't do things like that. So that's something to look at and to explore. Like, get curious, and you being able to be curious about these things can take off a lot of the negative weight and feeling and pressure and stress that can come with just being on a journey of self-discovery, because self-discovery can be fun. It doesn't have to be so freaking difficult all the time. And as you're healing through things and finding things out and shifting through it, it can feel like there's a lot of pressure. It can feel really scary because you're recognizing what you need to heal, what you haven't healed from. And one way to just work through that is, transform that fear into genuine curiosity, transform that into just knowledge and learning. And that can empower you instead of making you feel so freaking afraid of everything in your life. Because guess what? Like, life is meant to be enjoyable. Like, it's meant to truly be a fun experience. Of course, you're going to have ups and downs. Of course, there's going to be hard things. Um, and and there's duality that can exist in that. You can have fun and work through things at the same time. It doesn't have to be bad. And that is something that I did not understand in the past. I didn't understand that, like, your relationships that you have with people are supposed to be fun. Like, seriously, like, I was so used to being in dynamics that are nothing but, like, legitimately feel like work. Like, they feel like these hard ass tasks that leave me feeling drained and just tired, and just, I didn't even understand that. So please know that. And another thing for you to look into is, maybe there's some work that you can do on transforming the relationship that you have to joy and happiness in your life. Are you someone who welcomes joy into your life, or are you someone who tries to put yourself in dynamics where you don't experience that? Are you someone who welcomes fun and joy into your life through, like, activities that you do, or maybe are you someone who welcomes it, like, when it's offered to you, when you have so many opportunities for that in your life? Or are you someone who pushes that away? That's something to look at. If you're pushing it away, why? What are the deeper, what's going on a deep level, the reason why you feel like you maybe are undeserving of having joy in your life, and having aligned relationships that don't feel like work to you, right? Like, there's a difference between effort and work. Your relationships are going to take effort, but effort is not like a freaking 9 to 5 job, a whole, just too much. Just too much. And if that's what you're used to, you might not even be aware of the fact that that's what you're used to in your life. You might not be aware that that's what all of your relationships look like. You might not even know that this is the norm for you. Like, you probably think that this is the norm. And I'm telling you, like, life is meant to be fun. And so see how maybe you can reframe some of the beliefs that you have about welcoming joy into your life, and figuring out what does that actually mean to you. Because I recognize that, there are some levels where I even struggle with that, right? Like I struggled really hard too with just recognizing that, God, like, I know that God is unconditional love, but I struggled with knowing that God wants you to be in like dynamics that are incredibly loving, that are rewarding, that are beneficial, and not just beneficial because they make you do like a lot of work or work through your wounds and all that stuff. And I'm still, even now, rewriting the way that I see God, because I do not believe that God is going to want us in any type of dynamic where you're not valued, where you're not loved, where you're not respected, where you're not allowed to be heard, you're not allowed to speak. And that is my own personal relationship with God, and me still, even now, sitting through and rewriting things and getting really clear on where do I see God when it comes to my relationships with other people? How do I see it? And this is so important to remember, because time and time again, I've seen it and I've experienced it myself. I've experienced this on such a deep level, and it's led to me doing some really stupid things that completely go against who I am as a person, and what I want out of my life. And that is, you know, if you believe that like God wants you in a specific dynamic or a specific relationship, really look at that. It's okay to question why you believe that. And guess what? Like, you might be right. Like, maybe that does fit with what you believe God to be in a very healthy way. But it may also be something where maybe you recognize that, like, you haven't really questioned why you feel like God wants you in that dynamic, right? Like, why would God, like, just question it, like, what does that mean? Why do you think that God wants you there? What does God mean to you? And what role does God play in this relationship? Like, how do you know that it plays this role? What's the difference between uh, like what you perceive, I guess, like God is doing versus what is just what you want, or what you think? And that's a really hard one to work through, but it can really give you so much more insight into yourself and also how you view God. And please understand that you can always rewrite these things. Like, I've seen so many people end up in, stay stuck in marriages that do not serve them, simply because they're like, well, I feel like God led me here. And guess what? Even if God led you there, right, like, there might be deeper purposes for that. Maybe that has to do with your learning and your growth. Maybe it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that you're meant to be with that person, that person is the one for you, right? Because we can be in dynamics where we learn things and then we recognize, like, okay, they're not the one. And maybe you were led there so that you could learn things, so that by learning it, you could understand who you are and what you want and what to accept from other people, so that later down the line, you can actually find the one. You can be with that person who's going to respect, value, and love you unconditionally. And so also, I want you to be aware of the fact that I just lost it and I just had it in my mind. I'm sorry, I don't even remember what it is, guys. I'm kind of just like talking whatever comes up for me, but just understand that even if you believe that maybe like God led you in some place, like, that doesn't have to mean that like you have to stay there if you're not being like respected and all these extra things that are going on that are really keeping you from living the life that you desire, living the life that is aligned with you, that brings you happiness, that brings you joy, that brings you fulfillment. Like, I made a commitment to myself about, I don't know, maybe like 6 years ago, that I'm always going to commit to myself. I'm always going to commit to creating the life that I desire. And I remember journaling about that when I was in college, and I've held that to the highest standard my entire life for the last 6 years, and I have not gone back on that because it means the world to me. And I want you to understand that it's okay to create these commitments for yourself as well. And it's these commitments that may still hold you to, high standards. And it's okay if you screw up. It's okay. It's totally all right. But what's messy is staying in these places that are they're just not right for you. They're not good for you. They're not going to progress anywhere. And I want you to understand that you do not have to wait for anybody. You do not have to do that. Um, and I remember what the other thing was that I was going to tell you guys, and it's that, back to the energetic match and frequency thing, the more that you make yourself a very safe and emotionally available person, the more that you're going to attract that into your life. And I'm telling you too, the people that you're a match for are the people who are going to be in your life. They're going to come back in your life, and it's going to feel very divine. It's going to feel like a huge synchronicity. And sometimes, right, like, when we don't understand these things, or maybe we haven't lived through this in different ways, and I'm telling you from someone who's lived through this shit so much in my life, like, just because something, has some divine components to it, doesn't mean that that's like your forever person. That doesn't mean that's the person that you have to stay with in your life. You know what I mean? And I used to think that, like, because I'd have these amazing supernatural experiences with people, or I would feel like the whole relationship is so divinely orchestrated, that, like, that's like a sign that you're meant to be with that person. But you can have amazing experiences like that with anyone in your life. Well, maybe not anyone, but like with other people is what I meant to say there. Because I've had those experiences, like, even with my aunt. Like, I've had experiences, like, that are really, really high vibrational, good feeling things with friends, like friends that I don't see in any type of romantic light at all. Like, they truly are just friends to me. And what confuses us is when we have those experiences in a romantic relationship, for some reason, when we have them in a romantic relationship or a romantic connection or with someone that we have feelings for, we literally think that has to mean something special from God, that has to mean that God is literally telling you to stay with that person. It may not be that. Like, maybe it's time for you to surrender that idea and then figure out how to expand on it. Maybe it's that you can have these divine experiences with different people in your life, and it doesn't make them any less special. It doesn't take any meaning from them. And it's okay to have these experiences with someone and recognize that they ain't the one for you. Like, it's okay. And so many of us, I don't feel like, are taught these things. We're not told this stuff, and so we believe so many things in our own heads. And forgive yourself if this is you. Forgive yourself if you're still working through this. I mean, I still am. And it's that you are allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to be wrong about things. And if you're a perfectionist, like a people pleaser and all this stuff, like a fixer-upper type person when it comes to other people and their problems, you might not know that is okay to be wrong. Like, you might not feel like it's all right for you to be wrong about a person or about relationships and the meaning of them. And when you are in good relationships with people, you're going to know that it's okay for you to admit that you're wrong about things too. Like, it's okay to do that. And it doesn't have to be this huge, like, ritual process where you're like, yes, I was so wrong. And now it's a whole problem because that person is needing you to like say every single time that you're wrong. Like, no, that's not what these things are. And I know I can, there's so much on this topic. And what I want to do for you guys is continue to share more videos with you guys when it comes to love and relationships and dynamics like that, because I feel like there's so much to unpack in that. Um, but please understand that it's okay if a relationship has like failed. And again, like if you are someone who really connects with God and religion, or not even religion but like spirituality, the rules are the same that I'm telling you. Like, you are allowed to work through your relationship with God and understanding what that means to you. And that does not mean that you're like a non-believer or you're like this really bad person. Like, how the hell are you going to have thriving, a good understanding of who you are if you're not going to understand who God is to you, right? Like, we're taught in those backgrounds that like your identity or whatever like comes from God, or there's at least a very close relationship to that. And so understand what that means to you, and know that you are allowed to have your own personal relationship and what that means to you. That doesn't have to look like the way that everyone else perceives him. And I think at the end of the day, when we have these like jacked up relationships, they do bring us closer to God, because sometimes they push us to like really surrender. They push us to learn faith. Like, they push us to come to God to pray, because we're literally in so much emotional just pain and stress and turmoil and all these things. And I also want you to understand that there's so much information online about relationships. There's so much information online about karmics, twin flames, soulmates, the one, whatever, whatever. And as you watch those videos, as you listen to those people, and yes, I'm including myself in this video, in this category, always use your intuition, always practice discernment, because just because someone says something online doesn't mean that they're right. And guess what? There can be simultaneous truth. Maybe that person who's speaking online is right about what they're talking about, but perhaps maybe that doesn't apply to you in the same way. And so your truth listening to that is different, right? So this is why I always encourage you guys, beyond anything, to always listen to your intuition, to always reflect, to ask questions, because that's how you figure out that's how you figure out what resonates with you. And your intuition is there as a gift, and that is going to help you gain clarity on other things. And so what I'd love to create a video on in the future for you guys is just about how to listen to your body, how to access your intuition through your body, how to listen to your intuition and discern what's your intuition versus your overthinking voice. So that's something I'm going to do. And I'm so, so grateful. And I'm so proud of you guys for working through these things. I know that I talked a lot, but these are like the big main things that I really wanted to share with you guys on this topic. Let me just think for a second and see if there's anything else that I feel like needs to be shared specifically in this video. I think it's just the biggest thing of making sure you have those foundational elements and components in a relationship, like I was saying about safety, trust, honesty, vulnerability, things like that. Because you need them. You really, really do need them. And that is going to help bring you the fulfillment that you are looking for. And if you guys want to learn more about this topic, if you are needing someone to hold space for you, someone who is going to help support you on your journey of really getting in tune with yourself, your intuition, your confidence, what it is that you want out of life and your relationships, please know that you can always message and contact me. I am a certified life and spiritual coach and a mentor. I'm here for you guys if you need me. If you want to work with me, you can visit my website, biancaward.com, and just contact me on my contact page. I will reach back out to you. And then we can set up a free call just to talk about like what your goals are, how we can work together, what it is that you're moving through. And I would love to work with you guys. So know that you can do that. And also, please make sure that you share this video. Please make sure that you absolutely share this with your friends whenever you guys are talking about relationships and y'all having all y'all little girl talks about like why this man is being crappy, why y'all not for each other, like whatever is going on. Know that you can come back to this video, you can share this video, you can take notes on it, whatever it is that you need to do. That is why I'm here for you. So share this anywhere where you can, especially where you feel like it's applicable. And please make sure that you also write a review if you're listening to this on any podcasting platform. If you're on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to my channel. I post a new video every single Thursday. I do not miss a week ever, no matter what's going on in my life. And I'm so grateful that you guys are here, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.